Welcome back to the Viking Update Show. He's John Krawczynski from The Athletic. I'm Jim Souhan from the Star Tribune and TalkNorth.com. This is TalkNorth.com. Thank you for joining us. We're presented to you today by Giggly THC Beverages and Onyx Hunt. We're coming to you from the Aquarius Home Services studio. I also want to thank Clamshell Beach Resort, Crazy Fresh, Twill in the Dining Galleria, and Natrium. We'll tell you all about our sponsors later. We do appreciate them, and we appreciate you listening. So, of course, like the rest of America, spent Sunday watching the NFL and always trying to put it in the context of Vikings and Vikings fans. You look at the Eagles, best roster in football, just a powerhouse organization, incredibly well run, and going back to the Super Bowl the second time in 3 years. Then you have the Chiefs, maybe just as good an organization, maybe not quite the same roster, but they have Patrick Mahomes and Kelsey and a Hall of Fame coach. So when you look at those teams and you watch these games this weekend, how far away did you think the Vikings would be from either making it back to a championship game or finally making it back to a Super Bowl?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I had to have a takeaway that the Vikings were not as close to Super Bowl contention as I thought they were late in the season. From their performances against Detroit and the Rams to also the Rams' performance against Philadelphia, I use all of that as context to say that I think the Vikings made huge strides this last season. They had significant upgrades on both sides of the ball, but it looks like to me they're still a good step or step and a half behind Philadelphia, behind even Detroit, and then I think Washington, given what Jaden Daniels has shown already as being an A1 quarterback, that is something that the Vikings will have to see if JJ McCarthy is ready for. So when you put all of those pieces together, I still think that, I saw late in the season a real scenario where the Vikings went to the Super Bowl. And I think maybe I overestimated a little bit. I don't know what you thought.
I think the Vikings were a better team than the Commanders, and Jaden Daniels elevated that team. So I think if Sam Darnold had played against Detroit and the Rams the way he played when he was at his best this season, I think they win both of those games. If they win both those games, now listen, do I think after watching the Eagles destroy people that they would have gone to Philadelphia and won there? No, I don't.
Yeah.
But I think the Vikings, with good quarterback play, could have gone to the NFC Championship game, and then they would have gotten beaten by a superior team.
Yeah, that makes sense. And tell me this, Jim. Would you have rather they lose to the Rams in the first round or go to Philadelphia and lose to those jerks again? Like, that's what I wonder. I mean, of course you have fun, and the more you're in it, the deeper you get. This is fun, and you get to the high stakes. But I wonder, just in terms of the level of gut punch, it certainly was massively disappointing that they lost to the Rams in the first round. But if they had made it all the way to the NFC title game and then gotten flattened by the Eagles again, I think that would have been a hard one to stomach.
Yeah. From the purely selfish writer's point of view, once they got into the playoffs and I started making my travel arrangements and started thinking about storylines, honestly, let's be really blunt here. I write about women's sports a lot. I think we should all write about women's sports as much as we can. I want to diversify my column. I try to go out and do other things other than just write about the NFL. But the NFL is the elephant. It's King Kong. And you cannot, and we shouldn't let's just not pretend it's not the biggest thing. It's not the most popular thing. It's not the most interesting going. It is. So once I get in that mode, I'm like, yeah, I had everything booked for the Vikings to go play in Philly. And I talked myself into looking forward to it. But if I were just a fan and not thinking of it like a writer, man, I'd rather just go out, just go out and get it over with against the Rams, a kind of a likable organization, than having to actually have people fly to Philadelphia, get assaulted, get abused, and get destroyed by a great team.
Yeah, I mean, that's it. I think the last thing that I think any Vikings fan wants to see is another wipeout in an NFC title game.
Yep.
Eagles, Giants, we've seen it. We've been there. We've done it all. As a writer, too, yes. As a writer, you want to go and you want to be in these big moments and you want to be able to tell an epic tale. And that doesn't even necessarily mean that they win the game. I thought the writing that I did off of the 2009 title game in New Orleans was an incredible experience because the game was so compelling. And yes, they shot themselves in the foot, whatever you want to call it, but it was an epic game, back and forth, incredible performances, and an amazing twist at the end. That was super fun to write. Going to Philadelphia and just having them get curb stomped, in that environment, I mean, that's not fun to write about. And I think that, I do think that I'm pretty convinced that if they were matched up against the Eagles in this game, would it have been 55-28 or whatever it ended up being for the Washington? I'm not sure, but would Saquon Barkley have run wild and would the Eagles have won very comfortably? I think that is the most likely outcome of that matchup.
If Darnold had righted himself well enough to win the Rams game and was playing well, then maybe they put up a better fight. Maybe they turned the ball over. Because let's face it, the Commanders' turnovers are what turned the game. They're actually playing pretty well. Started turning the ball over. They couldn't do that. The Darnold we saw, if like the Vikings had won in spite of Darnold against the Rams, then it would have been 55-9. If Darnold had played poorly in that game, they would have had trouble getting double-digit points.
100%. And like, I don't know if you thought about this, Jim, but like I was watching that game play out, and especially early on, hey, Commanders, good drive down the field. They have to settle for 3. Then you have the fumble. Then you have another turnover. Like, I was like, this is like watching the Vikings right now in these situations. It felt like a Vikings faceplant. I thought Jaden Daniels eventually played really well in the game, and just didn't have enough help around him. And so, whether Commanders fans walk out of that saying, hey, what an unexpectedly great season. We did all we could, or, okay, but in the early stages of that game, as Philadelphia was taking advantage of so many mistakes by Washington, I'm like, this is exactly the way that things usually play out for the Vikings in these spots. It was just uncanny.
The other Viking-related thought I had watching that game and watching the entire season really is Saquon Barkley was a great running back for the New York Giants, but the numbers weren't crazy good. You watched him play, said, okay, this guy can rush for 1,500 yards. He can spin away from tackles. He's going to score he catches the ball well in the backfield. What a good player. And then you see him with the Eagles and you go, this guy is as good as anybody I've ever seen.
Yeah.
So my question is, after watching Daniel Jones have some success with the Giants and eventually flame out, is it possible that Daniel Jones, not that he would be as great as Saquon Barkley, but is it possible that Daniel Jones could end up being very good once he leaves the Giants?
I think it's entirely possible, Jim. I think that I very much look at Daniel Jones. The comparisons between Jones and whether it's Barkley or if you want to just do it, Sam Darnold. I think it's right there. I mean, both Darnold and Jones were high draft picks. Both have really good physical tools. Both were in largely dysfunctional situations with their teams, with their coaches, with the talent around them, and both flamed out in New York. And so if you take Daniel Jones out of that mess and you put him with Kevin O'Connell, with Wes Phillips, with Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison and Aaron Jones or whoever they have in the backfield, and with an improved offensive line, assuming they will improve it markedly this offseason, I think that it will be a more representative evaluation of who Daniel Jones is as a quarterback. I'm not saying that he's going to be great. I'm not saying he's even going to be as good as Sam Darnold was this year, but I think it is reasonable to expect that he would be better in this system, this support, this cocoon, all of it, than he was certainly in the later years with the Giants. And I think that, you look at Saquon Barkley was great for Philadelphia. Xavier McKinney left the Giants and had an unbelievable year for Green Bay, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, these guys, when they get out of that situation and they are flourishing elsewhere, yeah, I think that it's reasonable to look at Daniel Jones and say, hey, maybe this is the next guy that does it. And, and that that is the biggest reason, Jim, why I'm pretty comfortable going forward with JJ McCarthy as the presumed starter and letting Sam Darnold go somewhere else. I think that what you want behind McCarthy is a quality quarterback, but one who isn't an immediate threat to JJ. He doesn't have to be looking over his shoulder. And so you can bring Daniel Jones in. He's been here already for a while. He's started to know the system, and you can get him ready so that if McCarthy is either injured or just really, really struggles, then you can go to Daniel Jones, but there won't be this clamoring that there would be if McCarthy struggles and Sam Darnold is behind him here. And it's just like, hey, even though we know Sam Darnold didn't do well at the end of the season, we have seen him have success in this offense. Is it time to go to him in week 4 after 3 rough games for McCarthy? I don't think it would be like that for Jones, but he would be in a position where if you had to put him in the game, you could say, hey, he might be a heck of a lot better than he was with the Giants, and we might have something here to build off of, and it won't be a just hope and pray type of a situation that a backup quarterback comes in and catches fire.
Agreed. Let's talk about the Wilfs, this coaching hiring cycle, and some old friends, some old people with Minnesota connections. First, though, we want to let you know that we're coming to you from the Aquarius Home Services studio.
Hi, it's Scott for Aquarius Home Services, wishing you a happy new year. Is your furnace hanging on by a thread or just flat out refusing to cooperate? Don't worry. Winter's got nothing on us. If your furnace needs a little New Year's motivation, we're offering $98 off any furnace repair. A worry-free furnace is just a click away at AquariusHomeservices.com. Aquarius, earning the right to be recommended and keeping you warm and cozy all winter long.
And I want to tell you about Crazy Fresh. I've been eating their products for all football season. It's just perfect for football season. You wake up on the weekend, you have fresh fruit. You're hanging around, you want to eat just a snack that's healthy, fresh cut vegetables in bite-sized packets. You want a quick, easy, healthy lunch. Chef, Caesar, Southwestern, Cobb salad, whichever salad you want, filling, healthy. Everything's right there, including the dressing in a little packet, croutons, everything else. Croutons, say whatever you want. Then you have the dips, the party trays, the guacamole, the salsas. It's been great. And I love having it at home. My wife loves taking the salads to work with her. Just makes her life much easier. Everything tastes great. And as the name implies, it is crazy how fresh it is and how easy it is to eat. So I highly recommend going out and getting Crazy Fresh. Also, if you get a gold ticket, you have a chance to win an 85-inch TV. The first gold ticket winners of the season got to go to the Vikings game at Lambeau Field. So all kinds of benefits to buying Crazy Fresh and enjoying Crazy Fresh. Also, want to tell them about my friend, Twill by Scott Dayton in the Edina Galleria. I went out there again today. Actually, I went out there last weekend with my wife. Every time I walk in there with my wife, and by the way, we buy our stuff. We don't ask for anything free. Don't ask for discounts, although they do have a 40% off sale right now. I highly recommend. Every time I walk in there with my wife, she sees like 8 things she wants me to have. Because I never really dressed myself very well in the old days. Now I don't have any choice because my closet is filled with twill. So I'm automatically dressed well when I walk out of the house. This last time I bought some Brax corduroys. These are not your old junior high corduroys that just bunch up and look terrible. These actually look like dress pants. Bought some t-shirts from Baraket that are just the nicest, least wrinkly best, classiest looking t-shirts you can wear under a suit coat if you want. I bought some quarter zips from Johnny O. Bought a really nice sport jacket because I needed another one. Again, my wife loves going there with me. You'll love the shopping experience. Go to Twill in the Edina Galleria. They're starting to bring in the spring colors. The place looks beautiful. I highly recommend going there. Tell Scott that we sent you. Let's get to the Wilfs. You look at ownership in the NFL, and we saw what happened when Daniel Snyder got booted out and they brought in just a sane owner and he hired good people. Nobody's blown away by the Dan Quinn hire. Nobody's blown away by the Cliff Kingsbury hire, but they're competent, intelligent people. They end up drafting the right quarterback, and all of a sudden they're in the NFC Championship game. I thought the Wilfs were in over their heads when they first bought the team. I think it's pretty obvious at this point. They know how to run an organization. They know how to run a good organization. They give you stability. They provide all the money. It feels like the Vikings landed the right owners.
Yeah, I think so. I think that there can sometimes be a desire from a fan's perspective to have the bombastic owner, to have the one who is out there with the commanding presence, that really sort of, kind of gives the impression that, they're in there living and dying with you and all of those things. The Wilfs are certainly very much way behind the scenes, in the shadows owners, but kind of in contrast to the way the Pohlads have run the Twins over the years, there is no questioning the investment that the Wilfs have in the franchise, in trying to do the right things to build a winner. I do think that they have struck a really nice balance between being aggressive and spending money and making moves and things like that, but also not being knee-jerk and overreacting to either things that are really good or really bad. They have been very steady in their ownership. And I think in the NFL, steady is good. You want continuity. You want sanity. You don't want to be swinging wildly. And the Wilfs do that. And, you and I have seen them walk out of the locker room after a tough defeat, and it looks like Ziggy, just lost 15 pounds.
He's very pale.
Pale, yeah, like has seen a ghost. You can tell like how much it means to them, that how badly they do want to win and to get a trophy and all of those things. We have those questions about, do the Pohlads really want this? But that's not a question for me with the Wilfs. And do they do everything right? No. Do they make every decision perfectly? Absolutely not. But by and large, in aggregate, over the long haul now, which is, how long have they, it's been,
good Lord,
15 years? It's been more?
Yeah.
Yeah. Been a long time that they've been here now. They have been good stewards of this franchise who have been both responsible, but also aggressive in trying to build a winner. And that's really all you can ask for from your ownership.
I don't want to hear any ageism when it comes to Pete Carroll, former Vikings assistant coach. By the way, assistant coach with the Vikings back in the 80s. That's how long he's been around. He might not be the perfect hire for every organization. If you're the Rams and you have no idea what you're doing and you're just a terrible organization, you hire a great coach, a guy who's won in college, a guy who's won in the pros, who knows how it all should look, who isn't afraid to be old school and get back to having a running game. Pete Carroll might be perfect for the Raiders.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, it is an organization that feels like it needs a direction and needs someone who is, by, everyone who knows Pete Carroll, he's kind of relentlessly positive, right?
Yep.
And that is an organization that has a lot of turnover, a lot of struggle. I think there's some overall angst and toxicity there that needs to be addressed. And Carroll is a guy who will just come in and overwhelm people with his enthusiasm. And it may not be sort of the prototypical snarling Raider way, but I do think that It will be competent, which is more than what they can say for their last few hires. I mean, Antonio Pierce, Josh McDaniels, they were flame out disasters. Obviously they need more talent around them. So they hire the Tampa Bay GM who, I think he comes from a good organization that drafts well and builds the right way. So maybe there's something there, but Pete Carroll will be like a guiding force in that organization, and fill sort of a power vacuum. I think that will be very helpful for this team over the short haul. Is he going to be the coach there for 15 years? Probably not. But I think they need a stabilizer, and that's what it feels like Pete Carroll is for them.
No doubt. Let's get to somebody else with Minnesota connections and whether you should be rooting for him or not. First, I want to ask you or tell you, keep the good times rolling without the regrets. Giggly THC beverages are your go-to for bold flavor and smooth vibes. Zero alcohol, no bad decisions, just THC-infused cocktails, seltzers, and teas packed with natural ingredients and performance-boosting superfoods like ashwagandha and ginseng. Find Giggly at more than 500 locations like Total Wine, MGM, and Cub Foods, or shop online at giggly.com. That's GIGLI.com. Ready to upgrade your drink game? Use code GigglyNorth, GIGLINORTH, GigglyNorth, for 50% off your first order. Giggly, sip smarter, feel better. Also want to tell you about Natrium. I've been using their balms on various sore body parts. I've been using their oils that help you digest well. One thing I've discovered over my long life now is that gut health is health. They call it happy guts. They offer anti-inflammatory help for gut issues. It also can, depending on the kind of headaches you have, it can be relief for headaches and migraines. I know that's helped me. They also have some stuff that they call quick fix. If you're knuckle gripping the steering wheel, if you're stressed when you're driving, if you're stressed at work, if you're stressed at night after you get back home from work, they have things that can help with that as well. They also have stuff that can just help you have fun. I recommend going to a Natrium store or a Wildflower shop, same company, or going to natrium.com, finding what you like. But I do recommend going to the stores. The sales professionals really know the inventory. They understand what can help you. And it really helped me to talk to them about the right dosage, the right ingredients. And this is healthy stuff. It's natural stuff, very few ingredients, not a lot of chemicals, not any chemicals really. So check it out, natrium.com, Natrium and Wildflower stores. Also want to let you know that ice fishing is here, and it's time to hit the frozen water with OnX Fish. The Fish app is the most comprehensive fishing tool for increasing your confidence on ice. Use OnX Fish to find new places to fish and sort lakes by species, abundance, trophy, and keeper potentials. OnX Fish also shows you hot spots, lake-by-lake regulations, and private and public land ownership information. For a limited time, download OnX Fish for free in Minnesota and Wisconsin, or go to onxmaps.com/fish to get more information on the app that is changing the game on ice.
Hey, have you been dreaming of a lake cabin lifestyle with boating, fishing, and family fun in northern Minnesota? Well, lately I've thought a lot about how cool it would be to have a getaway like so many Minnesotans. And if you're like me, you probably think that owning your own lakeside getaway is beyond your budget. Well, if you think lake cabin real estate prices keep going up, well, think again. This is Russo, and I'm here to tell you there is an affordable way to enjoy a cabin lifestyle and all that goes with it. And yes, I said affordable. I founded a Clamshell Beach Resort, which is located on the Whitefish chain of 14 lakes for you and your family to enjoy. Here's how. Clamshell has lake homes that offer deeded fractional ownership, and the keywords there are deeded and fractional. You own it. Imagine having 5 weeks a year to enjoy Clamshell with its beaches, pool, and lodge that's full of kids' activities. Is golf your game? There's a great golf course right across the road. Like winter sports? Well, you can go ice fishing, cross-country skiing, or snowmobiling right out the door at Clamshell. And there's no maintenance, no grass mowing, no snow removal. It's done all for you. And you can own a share of Clamshell Beach Resort at an affordable price. To learn more about ownership opportunities at Clamshell Beach Resort, go to cottagesonwhitefish.com or contact Pat Egan at 612-220-9819. That's cottagesonwhitefish.com or Pat Egan at 612-220-9819.
All right, so are you rooting for or against Patrick Mahomes, the son of the former Twins reliever?
I'm rooting for him at this point, Jim. I wanted the Bills to win. just as a kind of, there's sort of a kinship, I think, between Minnesotans and Buffalo fans in terms of just like all of the heartache they've been through and all of the misfortune they've suffered in the playoffs. And so I kind of wanted to see them break through. But I was, now that it's Kansas City versus Philly, the chance to see Patrick Mahomes make history as a three-time, three-peat Super Bowl winner, and beat a team in a city that I don't really much care for is kind of front of mind for me. Like I appreciate the enduring greatness of a quarterback and a coach that just seem to keep finding ways to win games, even when there's a lot of things working against them, whether it is attrition on the staff or front office, whether it's letting players like Tyreek Hill go, and not having the major weapons at running back and receiver. They just find ways to win. And so that resourcefulness is something that I really respect. And if they win, that will be something that no one has ever seen before. So that will be a very, very cool moment. And if it comes at the expense of a fan base that, I wouldn't mind seeing have a little suffering, even better for it.
Yeah, I have nothing against Eagles players. In fact, when the Eagles were here for the Super Bowl, I thought they were really classy. Of course, Jason Kelce is a blast. So I have nothing against Eagles players. I just, I don't like their fan base. And I am not, I guess I'm the opposite of so many vocal fans I've heard who are sick of the Chiefs. I'm not sick of the Chiefs. I think this is fascinating. And when I watch a football game, I know I'm going to watch great athletes, and I know they're going to be spectacular plays. But what fascinates me about the NFL, the reason I think it's worth all the study that goes into covering that league, is the intelligence, watching Andy Reid figure things out, watching Steve Spagnuolo figure things out on their feet during the middle of a game, watching Patrick Mahomes figure out how to, dice up the defense in tough situations, watching Kelce with his relationship with Mahomes, figuring out how to be. I love watching teams figure stuff out in real time, and nobody does that like the Chiefs.
Yeah, it is. It's wholly impressive, and I'm definitely not in the camp of I'm sick of the Chiefs. I have no sort of, I guess, strong feeling either way about them. I am definitely not in the camp of, the referees, rig the games for them, that sort of thing. It's just, I got into I was more compelled by Buffalo's story than Kansas City's in that game. But now that they are on the precipice of history, I'm all for it. I can't get enough of watching Mahomes figure out a way to win a game. And especially this season, it has not been often I'm throwing for 400 yards and 4 touchdowns and being this wide open, explosive offense and this quarterback that is throwing no-look passes and things like that. A lot of times it's been, man, we have limitations everywhere. How do I cover those up? And how do I expose the weaknesses of the defense? And so if they win this game and they do get this triumph, not only will they be making history, but I do think it will be, their greatest achievement just from an offensive talent level standpoint. Their defense is really, really good. Coaching is great, but they don't have the home run hitters outside of Mahomes, and this has been difficult for their offense this year. Every game that has generally been close, and they've just had to find ways to scratch and claw and win, and that is something that is incredibly admirable and even inspirational. So I will be looking forward to it and just seeing how they counteract, because I do think top to bottom, from the second player on the roster down, I think that the Eagles have advantages all over the field. But they don't have the advantage with the number one player, and they don't have the advantage with the head coach. And usually that makes the difference. So to see the brain power that it's going to take for the Chiefs to win this game is going to be immense, and they have it. So it'll be fun to watch how they attack it.
And that's the other fascinating aspect about the Eagles. Roseman's great. The roster is incredible. They have great players at just about every position on the field. They get Barkley, who ends up being perfect for them. I still don't know if Sirianni's a good coach. I don't know if he's a smart guy. I don't know if he's a mature. It's like he's yelled at fans. He has given immature press conferences. He had to have a sit down in the middle of the season to get along with his quarterback. I don't know if he's any good, and he might win the Super Bowl.
And from what I understand too, Jim, I think Eagles fans have a hard time figuring him out. Like all you heard all year long was, oh man, it's week 12 and the Eagles are the 2 seed and everyone wants Sirianni fired. Like I think that that fan base in general has had a hard time wrapping its mind around what they have seen. And certainly with this coach and the volatility there and things of that nature. And then, I think over the course of especially maybe the last month, I mean, Saquon Barkley's just sheer greatness has certainly captivated that fan base. But I do think for a lot of the season, the Eagles fans were like, what do we do with these guys? Like, how good are they and all of this stuff. And so, I think that it's not just us who kind of look at it from afar and be like, that guy seems like kind of a chowderhead. But I think it's the people in his own backyard that are having those same questions about him. But hey, he's been in 2 Super Bowls in 3 years now, and it's hard to argue those results.
That's the thing. The results are there. The results are there. Yep. It's a results business. The results don't seem to match up with the persona. And maybe we just all take press conferences too seriously. Maybe it just doesn't matter. But man, I always thought it did matter.
One thing that is impressive to me about him, though, Jim, is that at the start of the season, there was a lot of noise around him and his relationships with his players and how he was leading or failing to lead and all of those things. And for him to survive that and like persevere through it and get his team to the Super Bowl, I do think that says something about something inside of him. Whether it's compartmentalizing, whether it's just being able to message and get through it, this has not been an easy road for Nick Sirianni.
No.
He has faced a lot of skepticism, some real like behind the scenes anonymously sourced reporting about kind of some of the boorishness and some of the antics. And a lot of times, so many times, the majority of them, a coach doesn't survive that. Mm-hmm. He has a conflict with his quarterback. He does, he has the bickering with the fans, all these things. So many times that leads to mid-season firing, that leads to team kind of splintering and falling apart. And he has been able to keep that thing together and get them to the Super Bowl. Like he's doing something right, because that's pretty darn impressive.
No doubt. Thanks to John. Thanks to everyone who listens to TalkNorth.com. We'll talk to you next week to preview the Super Bowl.